Welcome friends to another 40k video. Today we look at the origins of the Ravenguard Primarch Corvus Corax. He was born on a desolate moon of Lycaeus. This moon orbited the planet Kiavar. The moon was used by those in Kiavar as a place for their worst criminals to be sent. The moon itself is rich in minerals. Those who could not meet the production quotas of the planet below were also sent to the moon. The moon was ruled by overseers who operated from a dark mountain spire. To be sent to this moon was a death sentence. On the moon, these people worked in horrendous conditions. They were killed because of accidents and the polluted atmosphere, which took a heavy toll on the health of their children. When you were sent to these mines, there was no way to escape. And so it was that the slaves of Lycaeus prayed to the emperor for a saviour to come. And when he arrived, he came in the form of a child whose skin was as white as snow. There are a number of origins in relation to Corax being discovered that vary. We'll go over each of them now. One tells of a cave-in that happened and took the lives of hundreds of slaves, but it also revealed a hidden chamber which contained the infant Primarch. Another talks about a comet that breaks apart on a mountain of iron, and of a child who walked unscathed from its landing. And another talks of a warrior who is dying, who delivers the children to the slaves and begs them to protect the infant from the Dark Ones. Whatever the circumstances are, the slaves on Lycaeus bring the child into their care and name him Corax, which means the deliverer. He's hidden and raised as one of their own. He matures at a great speed and is trained in many skills. The exiles on the moon are of various origins and they each lend to the knowledge of Corax. He gains a thorough grounding in urban warfare, sabotage, demolition and killing. He's given everything he needs to be a general and a leader, and with his intellect he learns at a great rate and applies his keen knowledge to the situations he finds. Corax in his time on Lycaeus has been told that he is destined to save the people there, and so he begins to work towards that goal. They fashion crude weapons and stockpile them in secret caches throughout the mineworks. Corax organizes the slaves into groups called storm squads, makes sure the leaders in charge are competent, and drills them so that they know what to do with the tasks they have been assigned. He also implements a type of psychological warfare on the jailers. This comes to them in forms of regular strikes and riots. This is to stretch the garrison's resources and remove the strong morale of the guards to sap away at it. And each of these events is choreographed to seem like a gradual build-up of pressure. And then the time came. The now trained slaves under Corax were able to fight the enemy. Enormous mining machines were driven through the streets and key security points. Teams whose mission it was to perform a sabotage using rock drills and lance cutters severed power lines, communications and life support. Now the enemy mostly lived within domes, and one which housed much of the slavers' military might was shut off. This exposed those inside to the hard vacuum of space and was their end. Also at this time, Corax, with a small number of his warriors, attacked the fortress where their taskmasters operated from. He was able to capture it in a single night. And for those inside, after so much abuse for so long, there was no mercy. Every prisoner taken was executed. This outcome on the moon, that those in charge were overthrown, was a shock to the tech guilds on the planet down below. Their reaction was they immediately dispatched troops to smash down this rebellion. The war that followed was short and brutal. Because they were at the top of a long gravity well, Corax's troops could bombard the planet below from afar. They would use cargo containers, which would be filled with crude atomic charges that laid waste to vast portions of the planet below's industrial landscape. When the troops from the planet were able to land on the moon, Corax was there to fight with his elite warriors. He was able to outthink and outfight those below at every turn with his Primarch enhanced mind. Surgical strikes performed, removed the head from the command structure, destroyed the enemy supply lines, and kept them on the defensive. And the eventual outcome was that he was victorious. The troops sent up to the moon withdrew as the planet below's economy collapsed without the mineral resources that were taken from Lycaeus. Then the planet below descended into anarchy, as the many tech guild factions fought amongst themselves for control of the planet's remaining resources. And so the moon was free and celebrated. And in memory of their victory, the slaves renamed their home Deliverance. What Corax had learnt from the people that had advised him during the rebellion was that he needed to bide his time and to observe his foes before reacting. And it was during that period Corax learned of his abilities. He found that he could move from one hiding place to the next, constantly one step ahead of the cold-hearted and bloody-handed wardens, and even those that observed him directly found him difficult to see. There were limits, of course. Artificial methods of seeing people like auspexes were able to observe him, and that also aided Corax's campaign. And to go back in the timeline a little bit again, it was when the prison moon was liberated and the first efforts of the atomic bombardment were made against the planet below that the Emperor found Corvus Corax. When he approached Corvus, the Emperor came alone, with little of the pomp or ceremony we see when he meets some of the other Primarchs. We know that the Master of Mankind spoke with Corvus for a long time, but what they actually said to each other is not really known. Some believe that the Emperor told Corax about things like the warp and what would be coming in the future. So when Horus actually shows his treachery, some were not that surprised. And the outcome of this meeting, again, unlike some other meetings between the Emperor and the Primarchs, where he basically says, "You have to come away with me now," he lets Corax stay behind. Now, for me, the Emperor, I think, would only do this if there would be some benefit to him and his crusade, and I think that's what you'll see in this next section. And it's believed that when Corax is left by the Emperor to complete his mission to defeat the guilds, this is to teach him a vital lesson of war. And so, as we discussed, stockpiles of atomic barrages and mining charges are sent down to the planet below. And after this bombardment, Corax learns this lesson, the lesson the Emperor perhaps wanted him to learn, that by slaying thousands, millions could be saved. We're told perhaps this tempered Corax's nature against later events in his life. And going a little deeper, the Primarch has also learned a terrible lesson of war that may aid him when he is trying to get worlds to compliance during the Emperor's Great Crusade. That is, that the innocent must suffer for the sake of all. It was a truth the Emperor knew well, and one that humanity as a whole would experience on an unprecedented scale within but a century. And that, friends, is where I will end today's video about the origin of Corvus Corax and his meeting with the Emperor and what he learned from that. I hope you enjoyed the video. I've been loving doing quite a few on the Ravenguard recently, and I think I've one more to do for you. So I'll speak with you again soon.